Noah carried the groceries into his modest, sunlit kitchen, the weight of the bags in his arms nothing compared to the constant weight in his heart. The small ranch-style house smelled faintly of pine and old wood, a comforting scent that reminded him of his wife, of the home they had built together before tragedy had taken her. Mia, his 6-year-old daughter, dashed past him, her laughter ringing like a bell through the house, followed by Liam, his 5-year-old son, tumbling headfirst across the living room carpet, and Ian, the quietest at 4, clutching a small stuffed bear and observing his siblings with cautious curiosity. Noah smiled to himself, the corners of his mouth twitching upward despite the lingering ache that had settled in his chest years ago. He wanted to be present for them, to be everything they needed. But he knew the limits of a single parent's heart, stretched thin, yet stubbornly resilient. The knock on the door startled him. He wasn't expecting anyone, and visitors were rare. Wiping his hands on a dish towel, he opened the door to find a young woman standing there, holding a small stack of books. Her hair a warm chestnut brown, framed a face that radiated calm, her eyes bright with a gentle curiosity. "Hello," she said softly, voice carrying a kindness that made Noah instinctively relax. "I'm Emily. I think these belong to your children. They borrowed them from the library last week." Noah felt an unfamiliar tightening in his chest. "Thank you," he said, stepping aside to let her in. "These are mine," he said, nodding toward the children. "Mia, Liam, Ian, this is Emily. She's just a friend." Mia, undeterred by her father's careful phrasing, ran forward and took Emily's hand. Her small fingers were warm and insistent, tugging Emily toward the living room. "Will you read us one?" she asked, her eyes wide and expectant. Liam bounced beside her, still energetic and mischievous, while Ian hung back, clutching his bear and watching quietly. Emily knelt down, meeting each child at eye level, and smiled. "Of course," she said. "Which one should we start with?" The afternoon unfolded with simple, perfect moments. Emily read aloud from a brightly illustrated book, her voice animated but soft, capturing each child's imagination. Mia leaned against her shoulder, eyes shining with delight. Liam, restless at first, eventually curled up near her feet, captivated by the story. Ian, initially hesitant, inched closer, reassured by the warmth of Emily's presence. Noah, standing in the doorway, watched them. Every giggle, every eager question, made his heart ache in ways he hadn't anticipated. He reminded himself, "She's just a friend." He repeated it silently like a mantra, but the truth pressed against the words stubbornly. By the time the sun began to dip toward the horizon, painting the kitchen walls with muted gold, Emily had become a part of their world in a way that felt both natural and startling. She helped Mia with the drawing project, tying a small apron around the girl's waist, and encouraged Liam to try writing letters for the first time. Ian, finally emboldened, handed her his bear, whispering a quiet request for her to help him draw a simple house. Emily's patience and gentle guidance transformed the ordinary tasks of an afternoon into a tapestry of warmth and trust. Noah moved around the kitchen, preparing dinner while stealing glances at the scene unfolding beside him. His chest tightened again, and he busied himself with chopping vegetables, trying to focus on anything, that would keep his thoughts grounded. He watched Emily adjust a stray curl from Mia's forehead and ruffle Liam's hair as he celebrated his first completed letter. She laughed, a soft melodic sound, and Noah felt an unfamiliar tug of longing in his chest, a longing he wasn't ready to admit to anyone, least of all himself. Evening settled over the house, and Noah called the children to wash up for dinner. Mia lingered, gripping Emily's hand with a determination that defied her father's earlier admonition. "Stay with us for dinner?" she pleaded. Liam echoed her sentiment, half running, half laughing toward the table, and Ian, after a moment of hesitation, climbed onto Emily's lap, resting his head against her shoulder. Noah felt his heart lurch. The children had already chosen her. Before he could speak, before he could try to remind them that she was just a visitor, they had embraced her as family. Dinner was a quiet symphony of small joys. Emily helped the children pour their milk, guided Mia's hands as she buttered bread, and listened with gentle attentiveness to Liam's elaborate storytelling. Noah sat back for a moment, letting the scene wash over him. Every glance, every touch between Emily and the children deepened the warmth in the room and, painfully, in his own chest. He remembered his wife, remembered the home they had shared, and for the first time in years, allowed himself to consider a future that included not just the children, but someone else. Someone like Emily. After dinner, they gathered in the living room. Mia insisted on a bedtime story, climbing onto Emily's lap with a determination that was impossible to resist. Liam leaned against the couch, still buzzing with energy, while Ian curled up at Emily's feet, finally allowing himself to be soothed. Noah stood nearby, watching silently, until the quiet, golden glow of the lamp illuminated the gentle trust forming in his living room. "Good night, Mia," Emily whispered, tucking the blankets snugly around the girl. She kissed Liam's forehead, smoothing his hair with tender care, and finally whispered soft words to Ian, who had almost fallen asleep on her lap. Noah felt a swell of emotion he couldn't name: gratitude, relief, hope, and a growing recognition that his children had already claimed Emily as their own. He stepped closer, his voice quiet, almost hesitant. "She's just my friend," he said, the words trailing off as he realized they carried less weight than he intended. Emily looked up at him, a knowing smile in her eyes, a smile that acknowledged his struggle, his unspoken feelings, and the undeniable truth that his children had already woven her into the fabric of their lives. The children slept peacefully, toys scattered at their sides, homework forgotten, laughter and warmth lingering like a soft echo in the quiet house. Noah stood there, heart pounding, as he watched Emily rise from the floor, brushing her hands together. The tension in his chest eased slightly, replaced by a cautious hope. He understood now that love could grow slowly, imperceptibly, and that sometimes it was guided by the smallest hands, the gentlest hearts, and the quiet insistence of children who knew what they needed long before the adults around them did. The room glowed softly with the last traces of daylight and the golden lamplight, a perfect snapshot of belonging, trust, and the fragile beginnings of something that could one day be more than friendship. Noah took a step forward, and Emily met him halfway, their eyes locking in a silent understanding. The night was still young, but in that moment, the house felt complete. The children were safe, their laughter and joy preserved in the warmth that Emily had brought into their lives, and Noah knew that the story of their family was only just beginning. Outside, the wind whispered against the windows, carrying the promise of tomorrow, of shared mornings and quiet evenings, of a home built not just on walls and roofs, but on hearts brave enough to open, and small hands wise enough to lead the way. Noah finally allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, this friend was becoming something more. And for the first time in years, he felt the thrill of hope that hadn't belonged to him in a long time. The next morning, sunlight poured into the little ranch house. Noah watched from the doorway as Mia, Liam, and Ian laughed and played with Emily, who knelt among them, reading and guiding them with gentle care. Noah stepped outside to the garden, finding Emily tending the flowers. He took her hand. "I think you're more than just a friend," he said softly. Emily smiled, leaning her head on his shoulder. "Some things aren't meant to be simple. They're meant to grow." Behind them, the children's laughter rang out. Noah felt a warmth in his chest he hadn't known in years. Their family had begun, slowly, quietly, perfectly, together.